Hello, I'm Demis Hellen and welcome back to part 2 of my 3-part series for Cubase 14. We're going to be looking at the drum machine. So before we get started, I'm going to show you how to add the drum machine into your project. We're going to use the one that we've already added in here. I'm just going to show you how to add this first. So right click anywhere on the tracks, add track and drum. I'm just going to label this test for now. And you can see you can choose between pattern and MIDI like I showed you in the previous episode. And we've got our new track with our blank drum machine loaded here at the bottom. And you can see it's loaded into the console. So we can see now that we've got the editor, sampler, everything is down here that we need. The drum machine is found here. And then from here, it's simple to load sounds in. We can right click and load an instrument if you've already got something saved, find the samples via the menu, or you can simply drag and drop. So this is the easiest way for me. You have a sample, you can click, you can just drag it, and it will drop and populate that pad. If I select this one over here, drag and drop, it will populate that pad. And you can also drag and drop straight onto the pads as well if you want to do that. And just looking at our drum machine for this track we've already got set up, you can see it says Trance Kit Demo. And that's because I've already loaded a saved track preset. So once you've got your samples loaded in, you can save it and then you can recall it for any project and get started really quickly. And I'm going to show you how powerful this is with this drum machine. So we've got this loaded in. I've got the kick, open hat, clap, closed hat, and the snare. So let's start. I'm going to use the kick as the demo for all of this. You can see here that we've got the kick that I've got loaded for the track. And you can see we've got 3 other layers below this. So we can hot swap samples and we can also layer these samples. So you can use them in 2 different ways for like an electronic setting. So let's just say we want a different kick drum, and I'm going to pick kick number 10. And now we can turn off kick 3, and we can have kick 10, see if that sounds better. Or do we want kick number 3? Or do we want both? But you won't play both together. But this is where it gets powerful because we can layer these up as well. And that's where these controls are really powerful. So I'm going to mute the first kick and just have the second one. And I'm going to show you what I would use this for. So we have some controls along the bottom. We have the sample start and end points. We have a fade for the beginning and end as well as a reverse. Along the side here, we have the gate mode, so we can have it switched on or off, so it works like a gate. What we can do here is we can shorten this sample, so we can just pick the click of the kick. And let's just say we want to move this start in. And we can have a little bit of a fade out as well. So we've truly got the click of this. Now we can add a pre-filter and we can high pass. But if you want more control or a steeper slope, then we can use either a filter, for example, on this front page. So we can say choose as a classic filter, and we can go into the high pass and we can say a 24 dB roll off. And then we can layer that on top of the other kick, activate it. And we've now got the click from one kick layered on top of the other one. And we can go a lot deeper than this. I'm not going to show you this about layering. It's a whole topic in itself. But you can see these tools are very powerful, and just look how quickly we've got that done using this drum machine that's built in. Not to mention that it's going to save you some CPU as well. I've found that it has saved a lot of CPU as well as time, because I'm not having to load in separate plugins everywhere and do these things manually. It's all available in one pane, much, much easier. So with that, we have the amplifier as well. We have the ADSR for the main amp, and we can change whether we have a linear or a curved response to that on the decay, and one-shot mode as well. So very similar to the sampler. If you look here on the kick where I've loaded the sampler, you can see we've got the playback, pitch, filter, and amp. Very similar controls. And then if we was to jump into the amp mod, you can see here that we've got the option to shape this and change the samples, start and end point. There's all that as well. But I feel the drum machine is much, much easier to use in my opinion. Okay, so what we can do here is jump over to the pad effects. So still staying on the kick drum. So you can see here on the EQ for the kick, we've got a roll off, and you can see a low cut, 36 dB, and it's at 20 Hz. So instant roll off. Nothing has to be done there once that drum kit's saved. It's always done, makes it much easier. You don't have to do all the fiddly bits at the start of every track. But we have a bit crusher, distortion, and a filter as well, and these can be reorganized. Just click and drag them to where you want. So the EQ comes at the end by default. So I've just put it at the beginning because logically that's all I'm using, so it makes sense to be at the beginning. So you have that option. Just to the right of these settings, we have a limiter and a built-in soft and hard clipper as well, which is magnificent for us electronic music producers. Makes a lot of sense to have this here in the drum machine, and it's a very welcome feature for controlling dynamics. Along the top, we have the level, pan, delay, and reverb controls again. So if we jump back to the instrument pad, you can see that we have the level, pan, decay, and reverb. So we have these options open to us in every pane, so we can test and chop and change things without having to go back and forth between different pages. The group section, this is just showing you overall what's happening with the sound and what key is it on, what's its level, pan, delay, reverb again, and then you can see output here. This is set to output 2, which leads me on to why that's outputting to output number 2. So if we jump over to my mixer for a second, you can see here the drum machine track is here. So if we solo this, you can see the hat's coming through there, but the kick is also playing, but it's on this channel. Let me just turn on the other kick. There we are. So we've got the kick and the hat on a separate channel, but everything else is going through that master channel. And if we jump back here to the group, you can see these are not assigned to anything, so it's automatically going through the master, so everything else will go through one channel. Now, if you want to separate them out, you can do. So the hats could go to out number 3, the clap could go to out number 4, and then you've got control over that. So nice and powerful, nice and easy to do. Now we have delay and reverb built in, so these are great for adding a little bit of spacing into the track. And again, these are saved with the drum machine preset kit, that when you save that, it'll save these settings as well. So let's have a look at the open hat here. You can see here I've got everything set up like I'd need to. And then over on the reverb tab, you can see that I've already mixed in some reverb. So you can see here the mix is up on the send, and I've got this set up. That's the dry signal. And it just adds a little bit more depth and control to your sound. You have that option to add some reverb and change up the timbre of your hats or whatever it might be you apply to it. And that's the same for the delay as well. We can add some delay, and you've got a few options right down to ping pong, all the usual controls there as well as the master send mix there. And then finally, something that I find really handy in my workflow is to have multiple samples loaded. So you'll remember that I said with the kick drum, we can have up to 4 samples if we want, and we can just hot swap them out and choose which kick we want. But there is an even quicker way than this once you've put the time and energy into it beforehand and saved the track preset here, the drum kit preset. So with this, we've got the kick 3 and kick 10 loaded. What we can do is utilize the other pads, and you can see here we've got so many available to us, we don't just have to use this. So what I'm going to do is just choose another pad to keep it nice and simple and follow the same format, whatever you might have. So I've got a kick, open hat, clap, closed hat, and a snare. So I'll just load these in and then I'll be back. Okay, so just off camera, I've loaded in a set of new samples. So we've got them in the same layout as the previous one as explained. And what we can do with these is change them up and have them preset ready to go. Save your kit so that you have these 2 kits or more set up. You can have them all allocated, and that way we can hot swap really quickly using the pattern editor. So if we jump into the pattern here, let's just say pattern number 2 that we're looking at. And if you remember on the pattern episode, I said we can hot swap samples. Now that doesn't make sense too much with no context added to it. Why would you swap the kick for a hat, for example? Why would you do that? You wouldn't. But we can hot swap kicks and hot swap hats and claps, and we can choose different ones and work out what tone and timbre we want for our track. So let's play this. And I can just choose from the select sample section a second kick. And then we can work out whether we want that kick or this kick, and whether we want that open hat or this open hat. So that is the Cubase 14 drum machine, a very welcome feature for us producers in the electronic genre. Works really well, great for hot swapping out presets in conjunction with the pattern editor. That's probably the best part for me. That really does tie in nicely with the workflow, makes things much faster. And like I said, dragging and dropping samples is adding it into your pool all the time. And if you don't remember to clear it out, it starts clogging up the project and things get a little bit sluggish, especially when you're dragging and dropping a lot of different samples in. Having the drum machine preloaded with a set amount of kicks and hats and claps that you know work, hot swap them out using the pattern editor. And with that said, thank you very much for watching. It's a pleasure to be on the Cubase channel again, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the final episode where we're going to be taking a look at the modulators. So thank you very much for watching. Take care.